Then we hear a round of shots, and I felt like the air cutting right next to me, and like I like, you know, it's a matter of seconds again, but I saw, like, you know, the wall next to me, like, you know, getting the hits. So I understood I was being shot at. I continued running, and then just 2 meters before I get in the door, I saw black, and then I just felt, you know, the most extreme pain I ever felt, and I saw everything just from above, like a drone.
Hello, my name is Tom David Frey, and I'm a Europe-based journalist and filmmaker. After the October 7th massacre, I spent weeks in the Middle East reporting on the horrors and the war. Today I'm talking to Dvir Fisher, a 23-year-old reservist who served in the Israel Defense Forces and who was severely wounded in battle in the Gaza Strip and miraculously survived. In our conversation, we take a look behind the scenes of the Israeli society, and we also talk about the war, about both the ongoing war in Gaza and about the war in the media. Please support my independent work on Patreon. A link is in the description below. So just as a little recap to people maybe not being familiar with the matter, most Israelis, they get drafted to military service when they turn 18 or after school. And women, females, they serve for 2 years and men for 3, as far as I know.
So yeah, that's how it works. Actually, but I finished school in the June of 2018. Then I did something that also many people do after school. Instead of going straight to the army, there is a thing called a pre-army program, Mechina, which is basically depends. You know, that it has all different variation. It could be more religious, less religious, more studying, more volunteering. But where I went is in Kibbutz Sufa, which is right next to Rafah. And we learned and studied, like, you know, a lot of stuff that you don't learn in school, like finance and psychology or Bible or history. And it's something, you know, that for the first time before going to the army, you go before that, you go and live in a different area than where you grew up, like outside of your bubble. You know, I come from a religious family. So, you know, getting to know people who have a different background than me, you know, different opinions.
So did you want to join the army? Because here in Europe, it's quite common that most people just try to avoid military service.
Yeah, I did. I wanted very much. I have a high profile, it's called. So it's like, you know, I knew I was going to be combat, but I really wanted to, because that's how I was educated and that's what I believe in. But, you know, people did it 75 years before me. It's now just my turn. And I said, if I'm going to be combat, I want to be in the best place I can. I went to do the sabotage unit. You know, it's like to learn specifically how to blow up stuff, which is fun, especially when you're like 18 and excited about all that.
Okay, so now you mentioned that blowing things up is fun, and I can personally imagine what you mean. But do you think an 18-year-old can handle that kind of power that is given to him or her at that age?
So obviously, you know, you don't go straight from drafting to wherever you will be based, if it's in the West Bank or, you know, Gaza or whatever. You know, you have at least eight months of training. My training was 14 months. But, you know, yeah, the army is very maturing, you know. A lot of people who even don't do a pre-army program, you know, find themselves, you know, they finish school in June, and in August they're wearing uniform and they're a soldier, and like they are outside of their home and for the first time, and it's very maturing. It's not just the army, you know, it's the reality of us knowing that there could be a terror attack anytime. My grandfather fought in Yom Kippur War in 1973. Like, it's, you know, it's something that is usual. You know, you finish school, you go to the army, you continue your life.
Now, talking about your training, some of Israel's friends, they like to call the IDF, the Israel Defense Forces, the most moral army in the world. While on the other hand, the enemies, they always talk of genocide and they talk of these kinds of things. Now, my direct question to you, what kind of ethics or moral does the IDF actually teach?
Yes, it's very moral because in your whole training time, the first 8 months, you're obligated, to have your berets, your rifle, and all your stuff, and you have you have here a small pocket where it's called Ruach Tzahal, the spirit of the IDF, and it's just values that like you need to have on you, and like in the basic training, you like every day you like go over them and like you think, what did we do today, and those morals are reut, like friendship, respect to everyone, your commanders, your friends, defending the country of Israel by her democratic values and by the whole Jewish nation's history and values, and the universal values of respect the fellow human, and of course to respect everyone and to love the land, to believe in life, and I don't know how to say it in English, but keeping Tselem Elohim, like the spirit of God, and also like there are a couple of like examples that's like of stuff, because as a soldier you're obligated to do whatever people are telling you, right? Your commanders, but there are some kind of commands that you're obligated to say no to, and like to think as a person. And it's called like commands that have a black flag above them. And those are, commands that undignify the value and respect of another person, or if it's, committing, acts that you shouldn't, like, killing somebody who is innocent or stuff like that. And all those are in this small book that you have to have on you all the time.
So have you been into any combat situation before the current war that erupted at October 7th?
So I finished my training, like my whole training, which took, again, 14 months. And then I moved from my original unit to the medical unit because I'm a medic. So that's where I was most of my service. And we were placed in bases near Jenin and near Tulkarem and near Nablus. And we were... as a medical unit, you have to have a medical unit with you wherever you go. And we would go almost every night to make arrests of people who, by the intelligence, we knew that they were trying to, smuggle arms or commit a terror attack or did a terror attack already. And we faced some times when, they were shooting at us from like a house. Sometimes they just shoot to make us know that they have weapons, and sometimes they shoot at us to try to kill us. But the whole thing in the West Bank it's not actually like, it's not combat. It's more of we go in, like we try to do it as very quiet, just, take to questioning or to arrest the person that we need to. But we almost every night we faced either a shooting or stones or both or explosives. And it's something you get used to.
So when you think of the Palestinians after your service, do you think of them as enemies? Do you think of them as other people who, differ from you? Or do you think of them just like people like everybody else? When being confronted with extremism, you obviously might change your opinion, or it might shift towards, maybe you view the entire society as being more extreme than they are. I don't know. So what is it that you feel about the Palestinians, or what you felt about them after finishing your service?
I met a lot of people, some of them were very nice. I also once I have a video of me in a shop in one of the villages near Jenin, and there was a tour of Israelis coming to see the old city of Sebastia, of King Ahab, which is in the West Bank, but it's Jewish heritage. So they came to see it, and we were kind of guarding them, and we were just guarding them. Nothing happened, and I sat down with the Palestinian owner of the shop, and we smoked shisha he gave me to check it out, and he speaks perfect Hebrew, and he told me that he hates their leadership. He thinks they're corrupt, and he said I wish that Israel would just take us as part of Israel. But on the other hand, it's never nice to see somebody who committed a terror attack. You go into their house and you arrest him and you arrest his brother who helped him, and you find clothes soaked with blood in their house. You don't really feel empathy towards the guy because he just murdered somebody. Even after what happened, I don't see the whole Palestinians as the enemy. I see them as people. Some of them, I think, are people who just want to live their life, just like you and me. And unfortunately, they were born in not a good place. And some of them don't want to have peace and don't want to live their life. They want to be shaheeds or to be another milestone in the destruction of Israel, rather than just acknowledging that it's our right to live here as well. And yeah, of course, October 7th changed my perspective, and it made me less believe in peace, at least in the close future. Because we have lost a lot of trust that we had. I still believe that if with the right leadership and the right education, it can happen. It's just they need to restart everything. The whole leadership, the whole education system is just very just anti-Israel and anti-Jewish. And I got to speak with a lot of different Palestinians, and everybody gave me his own very different perspective. But I saw us as humans, especially when, again, as a medic, we had a lot of car accidents that we handled. And when in a car accident, it doesn't matter if you're Jewish or Palestinian or German. We are all humans, and you get to the scene. You have so as a medic, you said, okay, we have 6 people injured, and that's how you see that. You don't, you don't count who is a soldier, who's Jewish, who's Palestinian. You talk about how many injured you have, who's most injured. That's how I saw it.
I recently met a group of Israelis, both Jewish and Arabic. And one of the women wearing a hijab, I asked her why she participated in that group. Getting along with Jewish people instead of, hating them. And she basically answered me that she works in a hospital, and that's where she learned that we all have the same color of the blood, and we're all just humans in the end. So there seems to be something about that. Now, talking about October 7th, I experienced October 7th when I was on my way to Berlin. I was on the plane in the early morning, and when I arrived to Berlin, and I'm not very familiar with the city, I noticed that my phone's battery had died. And that was because the rocket app was constantly, showing new incoming rockets, and it just killed my phone's battery. And at first I felt like, well, there is something big going on, but I didn't really see the scale of what was going on. I thought maybe, there's going to be a new 2014 war, something like that. A lot of rockets coming in and Israel then retaliating. But I really, throughout the day, couldn't really see what was happening inside Israel. Now, where were you on October 7th, and how did you experience that day?
I just got to Nepal 2 weeks before. I was in a festival, in a gathering of a community called the Rainbow. And it's a community from people all over the world to come to live together in nature, in harmony, no electronics, no phones. It was a world gathering. We were like 900 people from all over the world in Nepal. It took us just like 5 days to get there from Kathmandu. Like that's how far it was. And because we didn't have phones and didn't have service, I didn't know about anything on October 7th. It was an amazing day, even. Like, we went on like a hike in the morning, a sunrise hike, and we took a picture just at 9 o'clock, which is exactly when the attack happened. And just on Sunday, like around 11, after, another day I woke up, went to the river, yoga, all that. I saw a friend of mine sitting just in the grass and smoking a cigarette, which he didn't usually, that's why it was weird. And he said, "Did you hear what happened?" And I said, "No." What do you mean? Happened where? Like, did I miss something for breakfast or something? That's where my mind was. He said, "No, something in Israel." And he said, "Okay, come sit down." I said, "Okay." I got nervous. And then he said, there was a big terror attack in a party in the south, and there are 100 people dead. And I heard that. I said, are you sure? Because it sounded like, post October. Still, 100 people is a lot of people, even now too. But post October 7th, none of the terror attacks we ever, I think, faced were 100 people. In the second Intifada, I think it was 15, which is a enormous number. And then he said 100, so I was must be exaggerating. So I went to get my phone from my tent. I walked for 2 hours to where there was service. And I was very nervous because how Israel is a small country, and I like parties as well. A lot of my friends and my siblings. I have a lot of family that live in the south. I got to where there were a lot of Israelis, crying and making phone calls and all that. And I got nervous because I understood something big what happened, and I understood immediately that it's connected to 50 years to the Yom Kippur War of 1973. Immediately, like I said, this is a connection. And then I opened my phone. I called my brother to make sure he didn't go to any party. He answered. I said okay, I'm happy you're alive. What happened? He said something big. And I said, how big? Like Yom Kippur? He said, yes. Then I opened my news. I downloaded news because I don't usually have the news app. Like you, I don't have the Rockets app and everything. And after 3 months already of traveling and seeing the world, and I was very far from, Israel and regular life. And I downloaded it, and I saw the headline I saw was 400 people dead, hundreds are missing, tens of hostages. Israel is at war. Heavy battles in the south. I started to go into the details. I saw that 3 people from the kibbutz where I was in my pre-army program were murdered. One of my teachers, and another friend of mine from the army, and another guy from my who was younger than me in my pre-army program, was 2 years after me, but I knew him through the program. And they're those are the first 5 minutes, 5 names of people that I know. And I started to understand the scale of it. And many of my friends missing, and then I started seeing the videos of the girl being taken from the Jeep by Hamas terrorists, and all those videos, which is I said how is this real? I understood kind of what happened. I understood the measure of it, and I remember myself just sitting in the guest house where there was service, in front of a huge valley, on the Himalayas. Everything is so beautiful, but I felt reality is just collapsing. I felt how is this? How do I even feel real? Here everything is amazing and quiet, and the water is, flowing. But at the other side of the world, my home is burning, and people I know were murdered, and I don't know even with some of them. And like, I saw the WhatsApp groups of my team from my service that they were all like, and again, this is Sunday afternoon. And I saw like everybody were already in the army, getting their gear, sending their numbers and everything. And I said like, okay, there's war and I have to go back. And, after seeing the videos and seeing the brutality of what happened, not just, killings, it wasn't army against an army. It was terrorists who came into civilians' homes, beautiful places, and burned them alive and raped them. And I said, this is something that didn't happen. This is like something that I didn't think as a Jewish person living in 2023 in Israel, in the country of Israel, that I would ever see that. It's like, a pogrom or some scene from like a Holocaust movie. This is why the IDF was formed. This is why I joined the IDF. This is why my dad, this is why my grandparents. Like I have to go back and fight this evil, 80 years ago, we didn't have an army to fight, but now we do. And like something this big and horrible happens and I'm going to stay here. So I decided to go back.
What did your parents say when they heard that you were coming back and that you even wanted to, again, join the military as a reservist?
So I called my brother and he put me on speaker. And my mom was like saying in the background, don't come back, don't come back. And she said like, don't come back. If this war is going to be quick, you're not going to make it on time. And if this war is not going to be quick, you're going to have a lot of time coming back. Like, don't rush. And my dad said, like, do whatever you think. Like, I'm not going to decide for you. You do what you think.
So what's exceptional for me? I feel like when I look at different wars happening or breaking out, I see most people trying to flee. Now, when I look at October 7th, I remember those videos of El Al planes from the inside where there were lots of young people trying to, go back into the country. And some of them were even sitting on the floor just to make it back into Israel. Why is that? So like, what is different about Israel that others maybe don't have? Again, if I feel like war breaks out in Germany, I tell you, the first thing that's going to happen is everybody's going to try to flee. But pretty much nobody who's abroad is going to try to get back into the country.
Well, I was on one of those planes. I took a plane from Thailand, from Bangkok to Tel Aviv, and the plane was packed. And you only could go on the plane if you had a reservist call up, or if you were in service still. That's like 400 people on the plane. Everybody are soldiers, and again, soldiers who are like me. People who have finished their service already, who were in their honeymoon or in their big trip or all that. And, I was speaking to people and everybody said the same thing. Like, that's what we need to do. A war happens, we need to go and fight this. Like, if we wouldn't do it, who would? They would, like, if I would have lived in the area of Gaza Strip on October 7th, or you or anybody else, they didn't care. It just happened that I live in Jerusalem and I don't live there, and my family. And my cousin, he lives in Shuva, and he was at the party because Shuva is a very close village. But very lucky for him, it just, it was a music festival, which it was like 3 days, and it was Friday night, the night between, and about at 3 a.m. because he lives like 15 minutes drive from there. At 3 a.m., he said to his friends, like, I'm going home, I'm tired. And then, on 6:30, they were all calling him, like, where are you? Where are you? I have to go. He said, like, I'm home. What do you want? We need to fight back. Like, this evil didn't see a difference between, it just killed everything in his way.
Now, after October 7th, then you returned a week after to Israel. You drafted to the military again. Did you set foot into Gaza?
So I did enter. Actually, we entered again because I was in a special unit in my regular service, in a special unit in my reserves, and that's also like I knew that where I was going. I knew I'm not gonna just like stand and wait. I knew I was going to be one of the first forces to go in, and we did after one of the first few days of when everything, like when the IDF went into Gaza. We got in from the north side of Gaza Strip, around Bet Hanun, from the area of Erez, the village. And we got in by foot, actually. It was like an 8-kilometer walk, and you have all your gear and your bag, and I wasn't in such good shape like I was. And it's a scary walk, and the second, like, I can't forget the second you go in and you cross the fence, you're like, okay, now it's real. And it's something I didn't think I would do, go into Gaza. I thought that we have complete superiority over Gaza. We have all this technology and fences and, I don't know, drones and stuff that we wouldn't even need. So I said, like, okay, like, it is really happening, and we are actually going to Gaza. And the threat is always there. You're always nervous. You're like, the first hour we got in, after an hour, like, somebody said there is a drone above us. So you just you flee, kind of, to like be less tight, and all you think is, okay, I just pray that it wouldn't explode on me. It has to fall somewhere. I just hope that it wouldn't be on me. At the end, it was a false alarm, and we continued. I was there. Total apocalypse. Streets, ruins, broken houses. Every once in a while, you hear a plane drop a bomb. And like 2 weeks ago, I was in the top of a mountain in Himalaya, and everything was green and so beautiful. And like a second later, I'm in this, horrific picture.
So you went in as a combat medic? Did I get you right?
Yes.
So combat medic, what does it mean for, like, explain for a civilian? Because I think that by the Geneva Convention, combat medics are not to be attacked, because they are supposed to obviously help any person in need, whether it's your own people or the other side. And as far as I know, combat medics, under this rule, if they are protected, they are only allowed to carry like smaller grade weapons to self-protect, etc. Could you give me a little insight on your role?
Every soldier in every unit has his role. So some people, their role is being the commander, or some people, their role is carrying the mag, the machine gun, or the smaller machine guns. And my role was being a medic. Also, I carried my gun like every soldier, but instead of what I had mostly in my bag was medical equipment. Another reason I came back from Nepal is, I said, I'm a medic and my team needs me. And if I'm not going to go back and something happens, I'm going to feel like it happened because I wasn't there to help them.
So you are identifiable as a medic from the distance too?
A normal soldier has a tactical sign of how do you call that? A dash. And the medical and the medics have like a triangle on their helmet. So yeah, it's obvious to see. Yeah, I had a talk with a friend yesterday, and I told them that I remember one night that we were guarding. We had like a couple of guarding areas, and we were 4 people on one station. So we were guarding half an hour and then sleeping an hour and a half for the whole night. That's how it was. So you're not really relaxed, to say the least. You don't sleep, you don't eat well, you're nervous because anything could happen any moment. An RPG could hit you, a sniper, a drone could drop a grenade, could be a terror tunnel in every house. In Gaza, we found so much stuff that when we found them, I remember myself laughing because I said, wow, this is so absurd. Nobody's going to believe us. I found AK-47 in kids' bedrooms under their beds when we tried to clear the house to search.
So you were the first ones entering there, so nobody could have prepared it before?
No, it was a normal house, looking like a normal house. And when you go into a house, you search it, obviously. And at the first house, I remember seeing two guns under a little girl's bed, and we saw that It was a nice house. It was a doctor, a UN doctor. And in the same house, we found like military gear of Hamas and notebooks of how to make explosives and how to blow up tanks, and the green headbands they have, all that in a totally normal looking house. You just have to like look under the table, and it's there. And you're looking at this and you're like laughing because you said, "Wow, this is like, it's real."
So what do you think about people not believing you? What do you think about people that now say, well, all of this is fake and it's all prepared by the IDF and whatsoever?
People can say whatever, like, especially today when you have all those, all of different of medias, who could just, use their biased, way to shift whatever they want. And they can say that, you found them and stuff. But first of all those weapons and RPGs and AKs, it's not any gear that the IDF uses. And there was a friend of mine who told me that they found, it was a video that went up in the media, but it's a friend of mine. And they found inside a teddy bear, they found also like 4 guns inside a teddy bear. And the reason they were even looking at it is because they got into the room and like the teddy bear was like fallen because it was very heavy. What was inside, and when they tried to pick it up, they noticed it was very heavy. So that's why they looked, And the video is showing they're cutting the teddy bear, and they're also laughing because it's like it's so absurd. You're in a situation where you're saying, "Well, this is what I see now with my eyes." And I know that people outside who haven't seen this are going to say, no, it's fake. Because, as people who are not in war and, thank God, living their life peacefully, they don't think people can do that. They don't think that people could be so mind-twisted and evil to hide guns in a teddy bear or under a little girl's bed. But unfortunately, those are our enemies and they know that society believes in good and, wouldn't believe that the terrorists are operating from within schools and hospitals because normal people don't do that. But again, we have to remember that we're fighting a terror organization, and it's very convenient to them because they know that the media doesn't like Israel. So they can do whatever they want because they know, they won't believe them, so we can do whatever we want.
But isn't it interesting that the same people that hide military equipment, weaponry inside private people's homes or schools or hospitals, that the very same people all the time accuse Israel of war crimes? While this is committing war crimes, you may not, store your weapons inside a school. That's a war crime. Why do you think that double standard exists? Or not even double standard. Why do you think the same people that commit these war crimes constantly want to tell the world that the IDF is committing the war crime, that Israeli soldiers entering are committing war crimes?
Because I think, because they know that they have a good base that will believe them, that doesn't like Israel, and doesn't like the Jewish people, and doesn't like the IDF. So like they know it's convenient to them. They can say whatever they want.
Well, yeah, I remember some of the stories. I remember the Al Ali rocket story that in the end turned out to be false, or the rape story in Al Shifa that turned out to be false.
Yeah.
Now, but adding up to that, did you witness any war crimes or any crimes committed by the Israeli side?
I did see a lot of posts that were like floated down by the IDF to tell them to evacuate, which is another thing. They have all those videos of the IDF bombing areas. How do you think they know? Because they have exactly the time of when an airstrike will happen, because the IDF tells them, listen, in 3 hours there's going to be an airstrike, go away.
But how does it help the IDF if you tell the civilians maybe you should evacuate because in 3 hours we're going to launch an attack? Don't you think like the terrorists are also going to just leave?
They are, which is why this war I think takes so long. But it's also showing you how moral we are. I think every different country wouldn't care about the enemy's civilians. And every time I was in a house of a family that ran away from the IDF, I felt bad. You feel like, my presence here made them escape their home and they may never come back. But then I remembered that 3 kilometers from there in Be'eri, or Kfar Aza or Niroz, the Hamas didn't give them a heads up in order to only try and kill the IDF soldiers. The opposite. They targeted the civilians and they burned them in their house, and they were filming it live stream and celebrating it. And when they have videos of them coming back with hostages and bodies, the whole street is happy. And still the IDF warns them to escape because we don't want to kill any civilians, and war is horrible. And I wish we didn't need any, but we didn't start this war. And unfortunately, war is horrible, and sometimes people get killed. And if it was up to the IDF, no civilian would be killed. But sadly, Hamas also, like the terrorists, they dress up as civilians, and then they get counted in the body count of how many people are being killed. And again, you can see that, and I can say that to all your audience. You can see that in all of the videos that Hamas are publishing. They're not wearing any uniform. They're wearing jeans, hoodies, and an RPG. Again, because they want the whole world to think that the IDF targets civilians, which it doesn't.
Did you meet any civilians, or did they all evacuate before you
I didn't meet.
entered an area?
I didn't see. No, I didn't see any. My friends actually, after I was injured, they actually went into one of the houses, and they found a 80-year-old man who had pretty bad dementia. I didn't understand what was happening. I don't think he understood they were soldiers. He was speaking just Arabic, so they got like a translator. And he said, yeah, my family left, and they told me that they were coming back soon. And, they took him. They took this poor 80-year-old man and, escorted him and, joined him to another family that was there. But, it also shows you about their moral values of, I wouldn't leave my 80-year-old grandfather in a home if I had to leave,
Well, maybe you would, and if you actually thought that your enemy is more humane than you are, maybe then
probably.
You would.
The regular people of Gaza knows, more than tens of thousands of them worked in Israel every day. They know us. They know that we don't want war. We just want to live in peace. We don't want to, and we're not committing any war crimes. And maybe that's really the reason they left him, because they knew that he would be treated better by the IDF.
You were wounded in battle, or at least in a combat situation. I don't know. Maybe could you explain to me what happened?
Yeah, so it was after, again, 8 days of what I just told you, of us doing our missions and finding all the stuff we found. And we were actually on our way to raid the Hamas headquarters of the neighborhood we were in, where they were shooting rockets from, and they were shooting at us from the last 8 days. And also, when it was not a Hamas base, it was a UNRWA school. And you can really even look it up in Google Maps. And we were on our way to raid it because it wasn't operating as a school, They were shooting, they were hiding rockets, they were shooting rockets from, and we were on the way there. And in battle, in Gaza in general, because, you don't just casually walk in the street, you run between the houses. and it's called skips. So it was my turn and my friends to skip between the houses. Not far, about 10, 12 meters, which takes, I don't know, 5 to 7 seconds to run. Then we hear a round of shots, and I felt like the air cutting right next to me. Like, it's a matter of seconds again. But I saw, like, the wall next to me, like, getting the hits. So I understood I was being shot at. I continued running, and then just 2 meters before I get in the door, I just I saw black, and then I just felt, the most extreme pain I ever felt, and I saw everything just from above, like a drone, and then I just fell on the ground. I felt unconscious for like a minute. While that, they were dragging me inside the house. My friends covered me. They shot just everywhere, and I woke up a minute after, like in the house. And as a medic, I couldn't help myself. But luckily, there was a doctor with us in our force. And since I'm a medic, I understood what was happening, and I understood, like you can see here, that's where they did the pecking. It's called when you stuff a bandage into a wound where you can't put a tourniquet. And I felt like the pain really centers here. Now, I didn't really feel this, and that's when I said, like, oh, I was shot in the neck. So I had to move my hands and legs to see that I can. Again, my medic mind was, all over. I was thinking, I just need to move my hands and legs to see if I can, and I did, and I could. So it really calmed me down. I said, okay, now I can't help myself. I can't, and it's funny because when I felt like I could move, so I started like helping them, undress me, because that's the protocol. When somebody gets hit, you have to undress them to make sure there is no more hits. And one of the guys came to me, put a hand on my chest, and he said, "Don't help," So I said, I just have to stay conscious. And again, I came from India, not very long before. So there's a mantra I do in meditation, and I just did it over and over again to stay conscious. It goes Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, and that's what I did for 30-40 minutes during the whole evacuation. Like a jeep came, took me outside of the border. That's where a team of 669 units, which is like a unit made out only of paramedics and doctors who are also combat. And they took me in a helicopter to the hospital, Barzilai, in Ashkelon. They sedated me, and I woke up 10 hours later with my whole family around me. And the doctor came to me and said, you had a miracle. A bullet penetrated your neck from left to right without hitting any of the life critical things you have in your neck, and you can feel your neck. We have a lot of important things here. We didn't hit any of the arteries that we have in the neck. It hit only the edge of C6 vertebrae in my back of the neck. So at the beginning, I had a lot of nerve pain, and I was on a lot of morphine. Now I still have the nerve pain, but it's gotten way better. And they told me it's something that never happens. A bullet coming from one side to another without hitting anything. Instead, it's something that is 1 to a billion, the chances.
You as a medic, 1, being shot at from a UN school, 2, then being brought to the Barzilai hospital, which was also shot at with rockets. I've seen it. Number 3.
There was rockets actually yesterday. There was rockets there.
So we're talking about a series of war crimes being committed. How do you feel that the world doesn't really care about those war crimes, and that you're kind of to yourself and to your own people, that nobody really cares whether or not Palestinian extremists and terrorists commit these war crimes?
Horrible. I wish people would understand, because I feel once they would, and once all those people who are supporting Hamas and all that would actually, I'm 99% sure that 99% of the people who support Hamas, who are not Islamic radicalists haven't read the first line in the charter of Hamas, which says our main goal is to lead to the destruction of Israel and the Jewish people. You can check. That's what it says. That's the first goal in Hamas charter, And once they go and commit all those horrible crimes they did on October 7th and live stream it, and I'll get all those videos up on the internet, on the Telegram. Also now, if you could just open Telegram, write October 7th massacre, you will find all those videos of those horrible things that now, 7 months after, all the people in the world said, no, it didn't happen. They didn't behead babies. They didn't rape girls in their beds. They didn't burn entire families. They didn't massacre people in a music festival. Like, just go and look at those videos, or go and ask many of my friends who were there and fought there, or unfortunately been killed there.
Well, I've also watched the 45 minutes IDF video, for example, and I've also visited the kibbutzim. So to me, it's also a very unfortunate feeling that after seeing all of this, people just simply go and tell me, well, it didn't happen. While just a couple of months ago, the same people kind of like celebrated the horrors that they committed.
Now what I do, I speak in many places around the world. I spoke in Mexico. I just came back last week from New York. I was in Australia as well. And in Australia, I was in Melbourne, and I was there eating lunch in some place, and the restaurant in front of us, they had the Palestinian flag and the ceasefire now flag, obviously the LGBTQ community flag, and the native Australian flag. And I felt like I don't know who's in this shop, but I have to go and have a conversation with them, because I don't think they know what all those flags are meaning. At least not half of them, I'm sure they're. And I got in, and this blonde, 28, maybe Australian girl, I didn't have a kippah or something, and I asked her, like, what is this ceasefire about? And she looked very confused that I don't know, and said to stop the genocide happening in Gaza. And I said, that Hamas refused to accept any ceasefire proposal not by Israel, by everybody, by Egypt even, and by Qatar. They just say no. Of course, she said that it's not true. And I started telling her, facts, like I told you, again, that I was shot from a UN school, that they did all those horrible stuff. And what she told me is, no, I don't think that's true. You should see other unbiased news. And I said, what do you mean? I'm not talking about stuff I saw in the news. I'm talking about stuff that I saw with my own eyes and experienced in my own body, And it was, and she just said, no, I don't think so, And it was, I felt like I was talking to a brick wall.
But why is that?
Hamas
What do you
used
think?
because they're so naive.
Do you think it's really just that?
I'll tell you what. The Arab society knows exactly what happened, because they know. They speak Arabic, and I'm not saying everybody supports that, but they know what happened. But all of the Western society that doesn't speak Arabic and doesn't know the Muslim culture, like we do, because we live in the Middle East. It's because the West sees everything as an oppressor and as oppressed, and since Israel, for some reason, is the oppressor, us trying to defend ourselves from another, enemy country that wants to destroy us, literally, and have been trying to in the last 76 years to this exact day. Today was another terror attack near Jerusalem. Instead of saying, okay, have your country, 5 Arab nations invaded Israel to try and destroy it. And then, unfortunately, they didn't do that, because that's why I'm standing here in front of you. I just feel like people are naive, and they just, for some reason, believe in black and white. Not that, Israel is not perfect, and we have many flaws. And, the Charter of Independence of Israel, it says we want to have peace in all the countries next to us. And we have peace with Egypt, we have peace with Jordan. And on the other hand, the Palestinian Authority, not Hamas, the Palestinian Authority, which is like less radical, some way say, they pay wages for every terrorist that is sitting in the Israeli jail for the rest of his life.
For slaughtering Jews.
Or trying to, if they didn't succeed.
Well, some of them did. Or, some of them also get shot while committing crimes, and then the families...
And they get treated in Israeli hospitals next to Israeli soldiers.
But don't you think that Europe and America are also to blame for simply putting so much money into UNRWA? Again, you got shot at out of a UNRWA facility.
For sure. I think, the UNRWA was founded to solve the Palestinian refugee problem.
I just did a research on the UNRWA. It's different. That's what's actually so interesting, because they openly stated that, in contrary to the UNHCR, which take care of all the other refugees in the world, UNRWA says clearly that they're not looking for long-term solutions to the problem of the Palestinian refugees, of which only few are still alive, actually. But because you count the children of the male ancestors as new refugees, obviously now we have a ton of so-called Palestine refugees. And UNRWA openly, publicly, in their charter, say that they're not looking into resettling them like UNHCR does. Because that's what you usually do. You have a problem somewhere, then you have the United Nations agency trying to relocate people, trying to, get them back to life.
As what a UN group should do, find a solution. And a solution will not come from educating, killing all the Jews and destruction of Israel, because that's something, again, that I saw. I saw many, graffiti of... like 6th of October 1973, 7th of October 2023, and the picture of like Al-Aqsa, and like dead soldiers lying on the ground in one of those, and outside one of those schools.
Was it also a UNRWA school?
Yeah, on one of the walls.
So what did it make you feel?
Very angry, obviously. Again, it's one of those feelings, because you said, again, nobody will believe us. And I think I do have a video of that from my GoPro. I don't know if you ever saw like a picture of a UNRWA educating book for kids. They teach how to stab, and like that, the highest place you can get is being a shaheed after killing a soldier. And I don't think anybody could grow into a healthy society when this is when you learn in preschool and draw swastikas in kids' notebook, which was another thing I saw.
What do you think? What could the world do in order to get this region into a state where one could say it is, after all, peaceful?
I think the first thing is to acknowledge that both our nations, the Jewish nation and the Palestinian nation, is here to stay. None of us are going anywhere. And I think this is something us Israelis understood long ago, which is why, again, 2 million Muslim Arabs live in Israel peacefully and have all the rights that I have. And there are 4 different Arab political parties in the Knesset right now, because they're civilians, just like me. More importantly, because I think we understood that already, is that the Palestinian people will understand that the Jewish people deserve to live here, and we are not going to go anywhere. And, people say, like, go back to Europe. Half of Israel's society is not from Europe, and have been ethnically cleansed from, Yemen or Morocco or Iran, places that I don't think any Jewish person is safe in 2024. And yeah, Israel is the only Jewish country, and the safest place for Jewish people all around the world. And I think once not only Palestinians, once the whole world just accepts the fact that this is our homeland, everybody knows, the Bible proves it, and archaeological artifacts show it. Jews are written in the Quran, and Jesus was Jewish, and everybody knows that our history is here, and this is our homeland. And I think once everybody accepts it, and then you could start talking about how to make peace and how to, solve the problems. But right now, many parts of the world and people of the world just don't accept the basic fact that the Jewish people's home is Israel.
I would love to see this region at some point calming down in terms of extremism of all sorts. Also, when I visited Iraq, now I've heard the stories of the Yazidis who got slaughtered by ISIS.
Of course, and nobody talks about
and many
them.
Kurds. So yeah, of course, nobody talks about them. We have a saying that usually journalists don't say out loud, but it's like no Jews, no news. And there is definitely something about it. And I just really feel like maybe if the West stepped back a little and let Arabs and Jews just talk and just,
of course,
manage
because
things.
this is not a geographic war. This is a religious war.
Well, but on the other hand side, Israel gets along with some Muslim countries pretty well. So it's not like about all Muslims. It's just about radicals like everywhere in the Middle East. You have radicals again in Iraq. You have radicals also in Tehran. You have radicals in pretty much any Islamic country. But there are also Islamic countries that are, I don't know, we look at the Abraham Accords. They just want to get along. They just want to actually make business maybe.
Or just live their life and accept the fact that Israel is here to stay.
Yeah, better than to fight.
It's been 76 years. I don't think we're going anywhere, and we're not.
So yeah, I wish you a speedy recovery. And
thank you.
Will you actually have any lasting impact from the wound?
Yeah, I have a big scar, about 5 or 6 centimeters, just a scar, and I have a small scar here as well. I still have a broken vertebrae, but it's getting better. And even 90%, I take. I like life. And I want to add another thing that I forgot to talk about, that other than speaking, what I mostly do, I started a podcast. It's called Heroes of Israel 24. And I interview other injured soldiers and non-soldiers injured physically and emotionally by the war. And yeah, it's on Spotify and Apple Podcast. And because I think talking about trauma is the first step of healing it. And obviously not only just my healing, but also all of the people that I interviewed told me that, they find a lot of growth within them after what happened to them.
I will definitely listen to it myself.
Thank you, Tom.
So looking forward to hearing the inside stories, and thank you for joining the podcast.
Thank you. Have a good one, and may we have very good news soon, hopefully.
Let's pray for that.
If you enjoyed the podcast, support Tom's independent work now. Your help can come through a one-time donation or a monthly contribution. Your help ensures that more people learn about the topics that matter to you. Click on the link in the description or visit Tom's website for more information. Thank you for listening.